You must be careful about the words you use, or the words you allow to be used in your house. Words are things. You must be careful. Careful about calling people out of their names, using racial pejoratives and sexual pejoratives and all that ignorance. Don't do that.
It's time to talk about it.
Pull up a chair and take a seat.
We're serving up recipes for life.
With Hampton University's Dr. Richard Mason and Dr. Tamara Williams.
Welcome to the Sunday Brunch.
This is Dr. Tamara Williams.
And this is Dr. Richard Mason. And welcome back to another edition of Sunday Brunch with the Good Doctors. How are you doing, my sister? So good to see you back at the table.
You know what we say. It's good to be seen and not viewed. It is good to be seen and not viewed.
That part right there. And definitely to be good to be seen at a table.
Hey, eating has never been a thing that we mind getting accomplished. And so it's always good to be at the table with you. Good topics, good food, good meetings, good times. This is what we do for fun. So absolutely.
Exactly. So how's your week been?
It's been a week, but let me tell you, I must confess to those out there listening that I'm officially on like summer vacation now, right? So life is amazing right now. This is what I live for. This is what I signed my contract for. These good vacations to rejuvenate, to, refocus, to understand how things need to move and shift differently so that I can perfect this thing we call life.
Well, that sounds like you're bragging just a little bit because you're off. You got a few funky days off. That's what it sounds like.
I'm like you hating to me, but self-care ain't selfish.
Ain't nothing wrong with it at all.
It's necessary. Listen, in order to be at my best, I need some time.
And that's very true, because we always talk about self-care. So you definitely have to get that in, and whatever that looks like for you, that's the piece that you have to make sure you're taking care of, because it looks like something different for everybody.
Absolutely. Everybody may not have the opportunity to work in these type of systems with those type of contracts where they can, manage and be off during the summer and still get paid. That doesn't work for everybody, but everybody can find some way to take care of themselves and should find some type of way to take care of themselves.
Exactly. Well, I'm about to go take care of a couple of things real quick because you know where I'm headed. I'm going to that buffet real quick. So
you already know what I want.
I got you, your honey butter and your biscuits.
And that one other thing that we have in common.
That little bit of bacon. I got you covered.
Listen. The real one too. So thank you so much. While you do that, I'm going to introduce who we have at the table today. I am so excited about this conversation. We get to have great conversations all the time, but what I really love about this conversation is another opportunity for us to welcome back to our home by the sea. Someone who has some great ties to Hampton, and not just Hampton University, but Hampton, the city of Hampton in general. So when we get to see our people go out beyond Hampton and do well and come back and bring those things to us, it's amazing. So I am excited about this conversation. And also for the little brown girls and brown boys out there who want to get into business and understand more about business. We don't always get to have those business-like conversations at tables that we should. So I'm excited to have our conversation today, and welcome to the table, the one and only fractional CEO, Brianna Brown Jones. Welcome back to your home by the sea.
Thank you. It's so good to be back. I don't come back nearly as much as I should.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Not nearly as much as you should. But when you do, you make the most of those times. So I'm glad to welcome you back. And I have to say, you're home by the sea, not necessarily because you graduated from Hampton, but you have some strong ties to Hampton. So.
Absolutely. I did not graduate from Hampton, but I have history with Hampton University. Remember when it was Hampton Institute? I attended Kitty College, Kitty Camp, and I was one of the young ones who learned how to type and swim over the summer right there on campus. I got married at the chapel,
Indeed.
My husband's grandmother, once upon a time, was the oldest living Hampton graduate, and she too would tell you it was from Hampton Institute, not Hampton University. And my mother-in-law graduated from Hampton, so I do have deep ties to the university. And I am a product of Hampton City Schools,
All
so
right.
of Hampton High. So
All right.
I
Can't
tell you,
crush a crab. All
can't
right.
crush crab, but age will certainly make them claws a little brittle. But I am I'm glad to be back.
Well, that's
Glad
good.
to
That's
have
good.
you back.
Definitely. Welcome back. And this is your home by the sea, as we say, and you know that. But of course, look, you have ties to Kitty College. So you are a Hamptonian through and through. We celebrate those lab school babies.
Love it. Love it. That was a great summer.
I know that's right. I have to confess that my introduction to Hampton University was through her as well. Her mom would take
Okay.
us to football games when we were younger.
Oh, good.
And absolutely. And on the show, when I talked to you guys about like how I got into education and thinking
Mm-hmm.
about college, and I was talking about that person who introduced me to the differences and types of colleges, we're talking to her today. And so that's amazing. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
history has a way of repeating itself, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing sometimes.
Exactly. So let's shout out for the door openers.
Yes. You know the ones. Everybody has that cousin in their life that that older cousin that told them a few things. This one happens to be mine. So
All right.
yes,
Some of them were positive, okay?
we seem to be doing okay. But the reason why I wanted to invite you to the table is just because you're finally making it back to your home by the sea, but also because I wanted to have a conversation about business. A lot of people, representation matters. They don't know what's out there, what they can do, how to become whatever these things are. I have to be honest, I didn't even know what a fractional CEO was. You had to educate me on that. And so I want to have that conversation about how you decided you wanted to go into business, how you decided against Georgetown and went to Stanford, and, all those different aspects of how you became this fractional CEO.
Well, back up a little bit. Tell us about the fractional CEO, because see, I don't even know what that is. When I hear fractions, I go into PTSD mode, okay? Because see,
It's math.
that just wasn't my area of expertise when I was back in third, fourth grade. They kept saying if Johnny got half a pie and Billy got a third of a pie, how much pie do they have between each of them? I was eating all the pie and never could figure the answer out. So you have to tell me what you mean by fractional CEO. Are you part-time, a third of the time, 3/4 of the time? What does that actually mean?
It depends. So, fractional CEOs or fractional CMOs, so Chief Marketing Officer, really what that means is I focus on small to medium sized businesses. So, I've worked in corporate America, I've worked at Fortune 100 companies, I've worked globally, but my passion is working for smaller companies because that's where people are hungry and they really need the most help. However, the reality of it is they don't have the money a lot of times to pay a salary with someone's experience like mine. So what I do is I split my time with them. So right now I have two to three that I deal with on a weekly basis, and I set their strategy for them. So I am acting as the CEO or CMO, Chief Marketing Officer for their company. So I'm setting those marketing plans, setting that strategy, answering those questions. So they get a part of my time and they pay for that part of my time, but they get all of my expertise.
They get a fraction of your time.
Okay, so you work with several different smaller entities and they pay for a fraction of your time.
Correct.
Operate as a total CEO or CMO. Isn't that something?
Oh, okay, all right. So now, what would you say is a difference between that and working as a consultant?
Marketing.
Or is there?
I was going to say marketing. But typically, as a consultant, you are invited into the business and they share with you, you make recommendations, and then you leave. As a CMO, CEO, what I'm doing is I'm truly integrating myself into the business. I'm seen as a partner. So if rather than just being an outsider looking in, I really immersed myself into it and I consider myself part of the team. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
let's hide because the consultant's coming and let's only give them this piece of the information, nor am I just throwing something in their lap and abandoning them like, okay, got my check, let's go. It's really,
Mm-hmm.
let me help you. Let me get you to a point where you can afford someone full time. Because it's really the ultimate goal is to help these companies grow to the point that they can afford to bring someone in full time,
Mm-hmm.
but the right person, not just someone, but the right one. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's just giving them that expertise that they know they need. Because a lot of times they know they need something, they just don't know what it is. So I
Mm-hmm.
need to know what that is.
Okay, okay. So I like that because one of the things you point out, of course, as a consultant, you kind of step in based on the information that they've shared with you, and sometimes you don't always get the accurate information or the true definition because people sometimes don't want to make themselves look really bad, but they still need the help. So
Absolutely.
okay, but as a fractional CEO or CMO, basically it's like show me the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we're going to deal with it.
Yes. So if this was a family, and I don't like equating business to family, but it's a fitting analogy. I'm not the friend that's coming for Thanksgiving dinner. I'm the in-law.
Okay. That's moving in
You're
for a
bringing
bit.
the dish, though. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So I do know the crazy that's there. So
Uh-huh.
it's not everybody hide the crazy till she leaves. No, I see the crazy. It's not my crazy, but I am involved in the crazy.
Right, right. And I know as a consultant, that's one of the things I talk when I go in and work with like school divisions and other entities, businesses and all or whatever. One of the things I talk about, I explain to them, I need to know everything as a consultant because for the time that I'm here, I need you to be able to maximize your time and what you're paying for. Because guess what? At the end of the day, if you tell me that this is what we're dealing with, and I go in and I work on that. But guess what? The plan that we've put together and the information I provided you, if that's truly not all that you're dealing with, then you're not getting the best bang for your buck.
People don't understand that. And it surprises me all the time. And it's not just with consultants. I find that as a marketer. So even when I'm in corporate America and I'm running a marketing department, depending upon how marketing is viewed within the organization, um, I get some of the information. I get all of the information. I may not get any of the information. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's actually, and you can see how that plays out in different aspects. So there's a company that we're all, or a
Mm-hmm.
restaurant that we're all familiar with right now that's had experienced
Mm-hmm.
issues. And I was telling my children the other day, I was explaining to them how this could happen. And because right now everybody's blaming the marketing team. Apparently there was some promotion that went awry. And I said, I'm gonna tell you what happened. My guess, I don't work with the company, so I don't know. But my guess is somebody said, oh, we need to run a promotion. And so the marketing team said, okay, well, we'll
Mm-hmm.
give you a promotion. Not
Mm-hmm.
understanding what they didn't need was a promotion. They needed a new business strategy. They
Mm-hmm.
needed to understand instead of bringing in people that would be willing to pay full price, give them something for a third of it, they needed to bring in more people, or they needed to remind people who hadn't been there in a while to come back. But you don't always have to go to price. So there are different levers you can pull. But if you don't have that complete information and you're only going with what someone tells you, then you've answered the question. So
Mm-hmm.
your teacher just so the marketing team probably did their job in answering the question, but what they failed to do was to make sure that the right question was what was being asked.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It makes a lot of sense.
A lot of we got to go back though. You know, you most people don't wake up and say I'm going to be a fractional CEO or even know how to do that. But people always ask people when they're growing up, what do you want to be when you grow up? What did you go to school for? What are your degrees in? So how does that work?
Oh, I'm gonna make a long story short. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So I'm gonna be honest with you. I, for the longest time, thought I was going in the foreign service. I did go to Stanford University and I majored in international relations. And my concentration is in the socioeconomic development of what we then call third world countries. Now, those are developing nations, specifically those on the Eastern Horn of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I minored in political science and African studies. So I was headed to the continent, and I was going to do that. Well, I interned the summer before my senior year at a governmental agency, and discovered that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I was like, oh, okay. Law school was still on the ticket. So got into law school. And at the 11th and a half hour, I said, I need time off. I need a gap year. This was before gap year was a thing. But I was like, I need to find myself. So I deferred law school for a year. And then I called my mama. See, it had to happen in that order, because had I called her first, there wouldn't have been any deferrals. But, and I knew that.
You see me shaking my head, because I know
I called her. Ooh, you talk about somebody that was mad. So I came back to Hampton, and because I thought I was going to stay out in the Bay and have a good time and love what I was doing. And she was like, "You have no job, you have no prospects, and I am not playing for you. I'm not paying for you to play for a year, so you need to come home." And so I came home and couldn't find a job. And that was humbling, because I had a degree from Stanford University. We can't find a job. And they were like, well, you're overqualified. And I said, well, how am I overqualified? I don't have a job. I don't know. How am I overqualified? So that was a conundrum. But then I got a job at U.S. Airways.
Okay.
I had no idea. It was a fun job, though. I love to travel. And so I figured, let's get a job where we can have some fun. And I did. I had fun for a year, and then 9/11 happened. But even up until that point, I said, I can't do this. I'm not making the type of money I want to make, and I'm not making the decisions that I know I can make. So I went back. I had plans to go to graduate school. 9/11 happened. I lost my job, which then was the foundation of always have a plan B, C, and D. But I ended up going to business school at the University of Virginia. So I have my MBA from the Darden Graduate School. And it was perfect because I was a recipient of the Consortium for Graduate Studies in Management. It is for underrepresented minorities. And so they paid my tuition. So I got a free MBA from top schools in the country. And while I was there, I thought I was going to be a consultant. And because consulting was sexy at the time. Consultants were traveling. Consultants were making a lot of money. They were staying in 5-star hotels. I said, oh, they were telling people what to do. I could definitely do that. And I got exposed to a company called General Mills. I knew General Mills because I knew the products, but I didn't really know what they did.
We all ate the cereals.
Exactly. And they said to me, well, hey, you want to come do an internship? And I said, no, not really. But I was like, let me go ahead. I don't know. And I was like, well, in what? And they were like, in marketing. And I said, I'm not creative, because I, like most people in America, equated marketing with advertising. And I could not have been more wrong. And so I ended up actually going and doing the summer in Minneapolis. And my assignment showed me how much I did not know about marketing. Marketing is not advertising. Marketing is not just for the creatives. It's a lot of analysis. It's a lot of psychology. It's a lot of data. It's a lot of finance and operations. And so that fascinated me. I do interdisciplinary studies because I get bored easily. So I like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And marketing allowed me to do that. And so that's how I ended up in marketing. And I worked after graduation there for a few years, moved back to the East Coast with my family. And I have worked at big companies, small companies. I've worked at startups. I've worked in fintech. Somehow I always end up in food and beverage. Like you say, here at the table, we always go enjoy a meal. But I've worked where marketing has been the leader of the ship. I've worked places where marketing has been a support function. But I like to tell people I haven't had a career path. I've had a journey, because I've done what I wanted to do. And I choose to take on assignments that allow me to learn different things and to bring my best self. And at the same time, I'm getting something from these organizations as well. So it's been positive thus far.
Well, what's interesting, we have, conversations all the time whereby people may set a goal. You start off by saying, hey, when I grow up, I'm going to figure out what it is that I want to do. But people often think that success is a straight line. And it really isn't. And sometimes you just kind of walk yourself into a place and you realize I'm enjoying what it is that I'm doing. And for me, that truly is what success is all about. Some may define success by, oh, you graduate from one of the top schools in the country. Oh, you have a business degree from one of the top business schools in the country. But guess what? If you are not happy with what you're doing, is that really success at some point? How is that defined? But you sound happy with what you're doing. And so I think that, for me, I would say that is certainly a part of what success looks like at this point.
Absolutely. It's the journey. Much to my husband's chagrin, I like to say, for me, the success is, did I learn something new today? And was I able to apply something new or teach someone something new today? And so, it's always my assignments, my clients, my brands, they're all puzzles to me. And every morning I wake up with a hustler mentality of, how can I get these people to give me their money? So how can I get these internal people to give me their money? And how can I get these consumers to give me their money? And honestly, though, once I figure out how to get their money, I get bored. And then I know it's time for me to move on and to do something different, because it's you crack that code. So it is, but it's funny you say the success. I used to think that success was being senior management, being, a CEO, CMO, and having a seat at the table. When I got there, I looked around and I realized these people don't know more than me. These people don't do anything differently than I do. And honestly, many of them are miserable because of the things that they've had to sacrifice to get there. And I said, oh, okay, so this is yet another myth that's been dispelled. Up there with the whole concept of meritocracy. Lies. So, you have to define what does success look like for you? And success changes as you evolve and as you grow. Your definition should grow. What I defined as success 20 years ago does not look like what it looks like today. So it's a process.
I love that point, because a lot of people think if they don't make it to where they want to be at a certain time, or if they don't get something accomplished at a certain time, that is over, that they haven't won, that they're not successful. But I like the fact that success can morph and change into different things. And what you wanted as a teenager should not be what you want as an adult. When as you're growing, your needs should also grow, and your wants and desires also grow. And the fact that, at this table, we're lifelong learners. Like, we believe in learning and forever educating yourself, like never being stuck, not waking up to be mediocre on any given day, but understanding that every day is going to require the best that you have. So kudos to you for being able to make that shift and that morph and that change. I want to also shift now to talk about some of the mental health challenges of operating in those type of spaces as a person of color, even as a person of influence, as a woman. You've been big companies, small companies. Have you seen any differences?
No. People think, oh, if I go to a small company, I won't have the same politics. Yeah, you do. And it's worse because you have fewer people. So it's less places to hide. I tell people, everybody wants a safe space, but they don't really understand what it takes to make it safe. And no one can tell you what a safe space is, because what's safe for you is not safe for someone else. So again, it goes back to being grounded in who you are and understanding what you need and where your boundaries are. I've worked in assignments where I haven't necessarily been happy, but I've been okay. The trade-off, what I was getting was fine with what I was getting. And then I had a position where it broke me. And I don't break easily. I used to laugh and say I am unbreakable. But this specific place, it broke something within me. And I actually had to take a step back. And I had to redefine what I thought was success. I had to redefine, and I had to take time, which is not something I was ever raised to do. You don't give up. You don't quit. You keep going.
This one became personal when before it was more like business.
Exactly. So for this in this particular one, this was something that it meant more to me. And so I don't know if it was that the external or if it was something that was going on with me, but I had to step away. And as someone who used to define themselves by their work, that was tough. Because again, before I had kids, if you asked me who Brianna was, Brianna would give you her accolades. Brianna would tell you the degree she had. She would tell you the products she worked on. I had a shift when I had my children and I stopped defining myself by my job, but you never give that up completely. But even as you progress through work, you have to figure out, who am I and what do I want? And you got to be prepared sometimes to walk away.
All money is not
It
good money.
All money is not good money, and and if it is hurting, as someone said to me, you have to learn the difference between being uncomfortable and being hurt. You can push through discomfort. Discomfort is like working out. You're growing muscle. So you got to sometimes take an ache here and a pain there to become your better self. That's discomfort. When you are hurt, you are injured. You have to take time. All athletes will tell you, you got to let that heal, because if you don't, continuing to act on it, or you're just re-injuring it and you are doing severe damage that's going to hurt you in the long term and the short term. So once you know that difference, it actually becomes a lot easier. Now, again, this is not something that I would have ever thought I was going to tell you 20 years ago. 20
We
years
were
ago,
not raised.
straight out the gate, I'd have been like, I can't be broken. And how much am I getting paid? Give me some more. But as you age and as you see the evolution and as you evolve, it does become a lot easier.
I think also when you start to understand your own value and worth,
Yes.
because you understand that peace is money too. Time, as you get older, you understand time is money too. Your feelings do matter in how you operate and show up in the world. And so I think as you get older and as we age, we also start to value ourselves and our time and our peace more. So we're like, it's not worth all of that. I cannot continue to do this, or you're causing me to think or feel in ways that I'm unaccustomed to, that I am not ready to jump into. Yeah.
And I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with that. There's also something to, people are watching you. So I don't move in a way that I attract a lot of attention purposefully. I like to be the puppet master, not the puppet. So I like to be in the shadows. But what I realized was people were watching me, both at work and at home. So I didn't want my children to think that they had to put up with this. If they felt like they were being disrespected, if they felt like their worth wasn't being acknowledged, I didn't want them to think that that was okay. And at the same time, when I was at work and there were junior members there, I didn't want them to think that this was okay, because that sets the tone for them as well. Again, I would never tell you what to do with your situation, because I don't know your situation. But what I can tell you is, here was how I got to a point where I said enough was enough. Or here's what I'm going to do. So, people ask me, well, you just walked away. I did. I walked away. But that's because I was smart enough to build a safety net and I have a support system. Doesn't mean I'm never going back. As a matter of fact, I am looking to go back to corporate, but that's because I'm going back when I'm ready on my terms.
And you're already a fractional CEO. If it's a non-competing business, you know how we roll. We will try to do it both, all at the same time.
But that's my passion. My passion is helping small to medium-sized businesses. So, again, that's usually a very mom and pop, or right now I'm working with a podcast. So that's phenomenal. But yeah, it's about making sure that your bucket is filled, and that fills my bucket.
Well, what's interesting is the journey, but then also where you have arrived, because now I see a big difference in the shift in how we are promoting opportunities and where students should be thinking. Within Hampton City Schools, we always say how we are educating students for jobs that don't even exist. And years ago, you were preparing for basically that corporate job. No one thought about a fractional CEO or a fractional CMO. No one ever thought about those types of jobs being available or even possible at this point. But now you see that actually happening from a mental health perspective. I remember having a discussion a few years back with a medical group down in Georgia, basically how they had set up this concierge type of practice where they had several different people within the practice. They kind of bypassed insurance companies and they had their people kind of buying into the practice, giving them access to these doctors whenever they needed it. And I remember thinking initially, wow, how does that work? Because traditionally you're thinking, I align myself with some insurance companies and I get my patients based on those companies, or who are the big five healthcare providers. How do we tie into those people so that we can ensure that we will get our clients to come into the practice? But listening to their concept and how they set things up, I was amazed, that, unfortunately, I wasn't living in Georgia, of course, at that time, that would actually work for me. But that does make sense. And so preparing people for a different mindset of how do you think about things and figuring out what it is that works for you. So from a mental health perspective, it's like you really have to do those things that work for you in order so that you can be happy. Because like I said, you have the degrees, you have the education, you have the skill set and the abilities to work within corporate America. But guess what? You have found your joy. You have found that place that makes you happy in what it is that you're doing. And that is truly, to me, more important. You have to be happy with what you're doing, because and now you didn't hear me say this, but of course they always say money don't make you happy, But I mean, I can spend myself I can spend myself happy quite a bit.
It don't make me sad. Let me be
right.
clear.
You know what? Money doesn't make me happy, but it lets me buy stuff that makes me happy and go places that make me happy. Yes, it does.
Right.
I ain't never cried because of money. I promise. Money ain't never offended.
Exactly. But just being in a place whereby you enjoy what it is that you're doing. And I always tell folks, when you get to a place that you wake up and you're dreading going into work, that says it's time to start rethinking what it is that you're doing at that point.
Oh, I've been there.
Or who you're doing it for. And then, the good thing about education and building skill sets is it allows you the opportunities to shift and make different choices, and you can go back. Like you said, that yes, you're happy working with these smaller companies, but you're getting ready to go back into corporate America because you realize you can have a balance. When you're educated, you have options. And that's the conversation I like having, is the fact that education provides you with options. You can now do this and you can do that. You can take a pause for the cause and then go back.
You both said buzzwords that made me think about this. It's the think versus or think and education. So people ask me, like, especially when they find out what I majored in college, they're like, so what does that have to do with what you do now? And I said, absolutely nothing, except what it taught me how to do was take seemingly disparate pieces of information, synthesize them into an argument, and be able to communicate it. So whether I am doing that for a government, a foreign government, or I am doing that for a domestic food and beverage business, I'm able to take that skill set because I can think. So, I know there's a lot of conversation now about what kids should major in and let's go STEM. And I always tell people, do what you enjoy as long as you are learning to think. And in terms of the education, yes, I absolutely believe everybody should do what's best for them. I have a 4-year degree and then a grad school. But everybody doesn't need to go to college, or everybody's not ready to go to a 4-year institution when they graduate from high school. But that does not mean you are not in a place to be educated. Every day you have the ability to learn something, whether you are at a trade school, whether you are apprenticing somewhere, it does not matter. If you are passionate about it, you will educate yourself, teaching yourself how to think that in fact opens up opportunities. It's when you stop thinking that you get settled in that rut, and that leads to those mental health crises.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. And we talk about, right now with Hampton City Schools, of course, we talk about that whole portrait of a Hampton graduate, where we want our students to be trained in a place whereby they are ready for college, career, or some type of life decision that they're making and all or whatever. And so we look at the different routes in which students can take. And so that's how we have kind of changed the face of education in terms of how we deliver it, because sometimes when students are made to feel that there are only certain routes that you can take in order to get to a place, because like you said, now students are taking what's referred to as a gap year and all. But what is it that you're doing during that gap year that's going to help you grow? And so that's the piece. And so trying to figure out, so long as there's a growth mindset in whatever route you take, you can't lose. You can't lose at all.
No,
I figure people are not going to do the work until they're ready and capable of doing the work. And so there are a lot of people who shove people to move forward and say, yes, go ahead, because everybody else has started. But if you are not ready, you're not going to get the work done, and it's not going to be quality work either. So, I'm all for people taking whatever time they need. The race has never been given to the swift. I don't know what this time thing is. I have to hurry up and get somewhere. You don't have to hurry up and get anywhere. You have to trust the process. And that process is different from different people. Everybody doesn't take a train. Some people like to fly. I prefer to fly. I'm not trying to walk all the way around the mountain. Somebody's going to need to cart me around this mountain from time to time. And so there's other ways to get it done. I like the fact that we can have those options.
But do the work. So I don't care which route you go, you have to do the work. So again, a conversation that I had with my children about when I decided to pivot. I was able to pivot because I put in the work. I paid my dues earlier. So, everybody, I work with younger people. I like younger people because they definitely give you a different perspective. But unfortunately, the tools that we've now given them makes life easy for shortcuts, or it's we're going wide, we're not going deep. So people are like, I have conversations about social media. I'm in marketing, of course I talk to social media, and everybody's like, oh, I could be a social media manager. And I said, well, what makes you think that? Oh, well, I got these social media pages. And I said, but those are they personal or are they for business? And they're personal. I said, can you tell me the difference between what managing your personal social media is like, how that differs for business? And they're like, it's different. Oh, it's very different. It's extremely different. And those people, again, their job is to make it look like it's not a job. Content takes a lot of time to create. I know I'm preaching to the choir at this point, but like, you don't understand what goes, like a lot of people are just like, well, they just pick up their phone and first take. No, it takes planning and hours and execution because they took the time to learn how to do it, make it look easy, and it's not. So I just want people to do the work. Like, yes, whatever route you go, know that you can pivot. It's not forever. Hopefully, if you decide you started out in a trade, then you want to go to a 4-year, that's fine. That's great. But do what works for you. But if you're going to do it well. Tell people,
don't do it at all.
If you're going to do it mediocre, no one wakes up, to your point, nobody wakes up and says, oh, I think I'm just going to give you 50% today.
Nobody at this table.
Or if you do, then don't be surprised when you only get 50% of the blessing.
Exactly. And it's funny, you talk about just being able to pivot and do different things, because I'll tell you, I already have my retirement plan in my head. I'm ready to pivot at any given moment.
If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And I think that was that was the option of when you had to leave your job because you were already preparing for whatever may happen, whatever concerns could pop up. It gave you the ability to make those changes. You could breathe a little bit easier in that process than some other people who are either fired or they're leaving without a job and no understanding. You had a different ability.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I bring to the table. So, I mean, it's a tough market out there. Don't get me wrong. But I know what I am capable of. So I always tell people I can stretch up, I can stretch down. So I can be the CEO, I can be the administrative assistant because I've done everything in between. So when I
You are
need,
not about to be the administrative assistant.
I don't want to be, but can I be? Yes, because what I'm never going to be is homeless. So
Hey, hey.
That part.
so yes, and it's the pick up the pieces. And because I am a lifelong learner, I know a lot. I know a lot of people. I know a lot of things. I've been in a lot of places. And so again, it's just making sure that it when it's my time, when it's my place, I'm ready to accept what that will be. That's what I tell the people who work for me. It's what I tell my children. That's what I tell anybody. You got to be in a position to accept what comes your way. And that comes from preparing you. Because that's the only thing you can control. You can't control the market. You can't control who's going to hire you. You can't control who else is competing with you for the job, but you can control what you bring to the table, what you know, and what you can offer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to talk about something else that you bring to the table that we haven't talked about before. But you speak more than one language.
I do. I grew up speaking Spanish. Once upon a time, I was fluent. Don't test me now. But if you drop me in a Spanish-speaking country and give me a couple hours in a cerveza, oh, I'm good. But that was my thing. Languages have always come very easy to me. So once upon a time, I studied Japanese. Because my focus was the Eastern Horn of Africa, I took 3 years of Swahili at Stanford, and I speak and dibble and dabble in that. I worked for a French company, and the irony was I spent a lot of time in life not learning French, but I worked for a French company, and I knew my French colleagues would think highly of me if I could speak to them in French. So I did. I took some basic French classes. I invested in that, and so je m'appelle Brianna. I can give you a little some. So yeah.
Parle petit French.
The
best I got is French toast. So that's it.
But I wanted to bring that up also because, when we talk about the love of education, your background was also in libraries. Like your mother started a business library, and then you too, worked in libraries too, that love of books. And so for kids, who are out there listening, I want them to know that also part of knowing your possibility is found in love of books and understanding that love of new knowledge. So it's amazing things that you can do if you're just interested in wanting to know.
I love that nerds are having their moment in the sun. Like when I was a product of Hampton City Schools, being a nerd was not the cute thing. I managed to get by because I was a cute nerd. I could be social enough, but I was a nerd. And my kids remind me now, and I love being a nerd. And I love that they can be nerds and their friends love them for their nerdiness. Like it's not what it used to be. But I actually, surprisingly, yes, even though I grew up in academia, I grew up on college campuses, I didn't embrace that side till I got to Stanford. When people ask me why that place has such a warm spot in my heart, it was because that was the first place I got to be me because I didn't have to worry about being the nerd. No one else's labels were on me. And I wasn't just the smart Black girl. Because again, at Hampton, I was the smart Black girl. Now there were other smart Black girls, but for whatever reason, it was and that was our story there. I was the smart Black girl. He was the smart Black boy. You can't say that at Stanford. Everybody Black is smart. So you have to figure out, what else are you? Are you the smart Black girl who speaks languages? Are you the smart Black girl who runs a business? Are you smart Black guy who wrote a book? You got to figure out who you are besides just being the smart person, because everybody's smart. So
iron sharpens iron, and that's the importance of putting yourself in those type of environments. That's how I ended up at Spelman.
And that's the thing about HBCUs that I love. You can't be the smart Black kid at an HBCU. You can be the geek, the dork, the nerd, the emo. You can be the one who's in the band or the performer, because you cannot hide behind your Blackness. That does not make you special in that environment.
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. That is truly what it's all about, is figuring out who you are and discovering that, and walking in your truth. And that's one of the things that a lot of people struggle with, is being able to walk into that truth and own it. And that's the bottom line. And I talk with students all the time about that, just walking in your truth, owning your truth. But our commencement speaker actually took it to a whole nother level. And he reminded students, you got to show people who you are, and that's the other part of it. Walking in that truth and showing people who you are is truly what life is all about, and how to make a difference.
And I can show you way better than I can tell you. And I really believe that's what's necessary, is, those actions, turning the corner way before your words are heard.
But I think that's why people like you are so important, because not every student has that home life where they're going to be supported. I was fortunate enough that I had that. So I could be the geek at home. I could bring craziness at home, because that was fostered, that was encouraged, that was expected. Not everybody has that. So I love the educators who provide those spaces for our babies when they don't get it other places. Because you can't be you if you don't think it's safe to be you. So they got to understand that there is somebody who loves and appreciates them for them. Not what they can do, not what they have, but who they are today, as well as who they will be tomorrow.
Exactly. And that's, when you talk about just who you can be tomorrow, we truly have to pour into not just who students are now, but who we know they can become. So looking at potential, because I look back at people who sometimes talk about, this teacher in my life said that I wouldn't be anything. I wouldn't do this, that, and the other, whatever. But let's talk about those folks who poured something into you and really say, hey, look, you can be whatever it is that you want to be. You may not know what that is right now, but just know that potential is inside of you. And that's the part that we have to make sure that we are driving home, as educators in our public school systems and things of that nature. We have to pour that stuff into, pour that life and speak life into our kids today.
That they have the ability and the capacity within them to meet all the challenges that they come across. That they don't need someone to hold their hand through every single hurdle, but that once they've learned how to jump over them, they can apply those lessons and go ahead and hop over that next one and that next one and that next one.
There's a safety net. As I tell my kids and their friends and any kid who needs me, I provide a safety net. Now, that safety net gets lowered. So I'm going to let you fall, because you have to know that you can pick yourself up, but I'm never going to let you hit rock bottom. It might be, this goes back to, are you uncomfortable? Because if you're uncomfortable, then you need to pull yourself out that situation. But if you need help, I am there. I am there to help you, and I will always make sure that you have a safe and soft place to land.
We are so much nicer as parents than what we receive. Making sure that people have nice, soft landings.
We had it. They just didn't use these words. Like, they weren't going to tell you that you had a safety net.
Soft landing? Them landings was hard.
Listen,
But I
Listen,
appreciate that. You know, it built grit and it built understanding. You know, we were having this conversation earlier about that, you know, the good parts and the bad parts of independence and what that comes with, you know, that those are really trauma responses sometimes of us pulling ourselves up, being able to respond to the different challenges that we've had in our life. But sometimes it's necessary to know, to have that full confidence in yourself that you have the ability to handle it if it were to occur.
no, we were told you are going to get out of this house and you're going to do something with yourself because you will not live here for the rest of your life. A friend of mine that I grew up with, she said, "Daddy, what you going to give me from graduation when we graduate in high school?" And I remember sitting at the table we were doing homework, getting ready for finals and all. And he clearly said, "Luggage." And that's what he bought her for graduation. He bought her a nice set of luggage.
I mean, that's real. I've been telling my daughter since she was little, there can only be one queen in the castle. And as she's getting ready to go into her senior year of high school, she is definitely feeling like this princess is ready to be a queen. So she need to go and she need to move into her own castle.
Build it, buy it, whatever she gonna do, but she need to find it.
Again, you need, and that's the thing. I have given you all of these avenues for you to explore. I've given you the safety. I've given you this. You got to go find your path, and your path is now. Granted, your castle looks like a dorm room right now that you about to share with your friend or a friend. So that works for you, but that's your castle. So and it's only half your castle because you
still paying for that castle,
and I still pay for that castle, right? But again, it's I struggle with that though, because on one hand, I want them to have I want them to be better than we were, but at the same time, they soft. I was explaining to them what it was like to be a latchkey kid neuter. Thought my mother abused me. They were like, "Gigi sent you home by yourself?" And I was like,
every day.
And better have your homework done. The house better be clean. The chicken better be thawed. Don't answer that phone.
Right.
And the dog better be fed.
A list. Like, y'all come home. Your parents work from home.
It's the thought of the chicken for me. It's the thought of the chicken. Because if you didn't have that food taken out that freezer by the time your mama got home to cook, oh my God, it was trouble.
Real quick, what to press on the microwave, how long it took, make sure, run it under some hot water.
That was you thinking outside of the box, reading about other ways, researching ways in which to make it happen if you were behind the,
survival of the
survival. It's different. Yes. And I like that you brought up that it is a different perspective. It is a different understanding. We live in a different time, in a different world. We can't do the things to our kids that were done to us. It would not be beneficial for them or us to have to deal with the consequences of those things. They're not equipped. We don't pick up food off the ground and blow it off, but we knew people around us who did those type of things. These kids are not equipped for the type of living that we had.
But there's also the reminder that just because something has evolved doesn't necessarily mean it's improved.
That's right.
It's evolved to a different situation. So I don't look at their childhood as better than mine. I just look at it as different. It is a different situation. And I tell them that I fully expect to have, if they have children, that it will continue to evolve and they will take what works and then add something special. But yeah, I worry about these kids, but I'm excited to see what they can do because there are going to be a lot of them that rise to the top. There are going to be some that get stuck in the middle, and unfortunately, it's going to be some that falter.
Like every single generation.
Every generation, exactly.
And they do come with their gifts. One of the things that I appreciate about them is that they are more firm in their resolve of their self-worth and what they will and will not tolerate. And a lot of us don't tend to be able to set boundaries in the same way in which they are. And once they set the boundary, they stick with it and you can deal with it. And a lot of us often end up having some mental health issues or dealing with some of those challenges because we have not learned how to say no when it seems like that's all they know how to say at times. So,
but that's the crazy part because again, you would think, but they still have those mental health issues because it's, they're lonely or they don't know how to connect in the same way that we connected, or there's just, so again, there's always, everybody's going to have an issue. There's always going to be a problem that needs to be solved. We just have to make sure that people are looking for those solutions and that they know that they should be looking for those solutions. I love the fact that this generation talks about mental health. I remember being a kid and telling my mother, I think I might need to talk to somebody. And she was like, we Black, we
Talk
don't
to Jesus.
And my mother was educated. My mother worked in higher education. And she was like, Black people don't do that. And I was like, okay. And I remember the first therapist I had as an adult, I was still ashamed to tell my mother that I had one because I didn't want her to think I was weak. Now, my kids don't have them, but I say to them, it's a thing. I would love for you to talk to someone. Everybody needs it, and they're open to it. That's not a priority for them right now because they think they're fine.
You have a beautiful net. Supporting them.
Yeah, that's still real fine. That cashmere.
Right. But once they get to their own castles, they will understand and benefit more from what you provided them. The opportunity, the understanding, the language to use, and the words necessary to say, if you need help, it's okay. There's no shame in needing help. The only shame comes in and you're needing help and refusing to get it. So it's nice to know that they know that they can use those words. We didn't have a word for depression. We didn't know what exhaustion was. We didn't have those words, but it's nice to know that we are normalizing that so that people can get the help that they need.
And I love that it's starting to emerge in our boys as much as our girls, because I see that and I want to foster that as much as possible because I have a son. And I want him to know that it's okay for him to need help as well. Like he doesn't, we talk about toxic masculinity and, what's the difference and, how are you navigating these spaces? And it's not the same for the girls as it is for the boys, but they're both going at it in a way that I think these kids are going to be okay.
And I'll tell you, that's certainly a good place to wind this thing up here at the table, because I believe as well, based on where we are with this generation and the approach that they have to life, I certainly believe that we are going to be okay because there are going to be some opportunities that will present themselves in the future. And like you said, we are truly educating them and training them for jobs that really don't exist now. So just so long as they keep the bacon the same, make the bacon, I'm okay. I am truly okay.
Indeed. That is growth. Listen, we are definitely running out of time. There's never enough time at the table, and we're definitely going to have you come back because there's so much more to learn about how these students are showing up in the business places and good placements for them now. I have a million more questions. And so that's a good sign that we are not done brunching.
Well, thank you all for having me. This was such a pleasure. I love this.
Thank you so much. Well, I am Dr. Richard Mason.
I'm Dr. Tamara Williams.
And thank you for joining us right here at the table at WHOV Smooth 88.1.
The essence of HU.
Keep your fork.
Someday we'll be able to measure the power of words. I think they are things. I think they get on the walls. They get in your wallpaper. They get in your rugs, in your upholstery, in your clothes, and finally into you.
Thank you for joining us at the table.
Tune in next Sunday at 1 p.m. for more delicious topical recipes for life on the Sunday Brunch.
On Smooth 88.1 WHOV.